It's Friday, 4:55 p.m., and you're as ready as you can be for your very first gig. You always wanted to play live, but never fully committed to it until your friend Sam pretty much forced you to join his three-piece cover band. Their last guitarist was in multiple projects and kept double booking himself. This eventually caused the band to have to cancel on a casino show, which was their best paying gig. Sam was so sick of his flaky BS that he just fired him on the spot. He reached out to you to join with such desperation in his voice that you couldn't say no to the guy. So weeks of practice and 3 band rehearsals later, and the big gig day is finally here. You're a little nervous, but deep down you know you prepared all you could, learning and trying to perfect the 45-song set list. It's a good blend of classic rock, a few country tunes and oldies, and even some popular blues mixed in. It blows your mind that you're actually getting paid to play guitar, and it makes you think that all those years of practice are finally paying off. But let's not get ahead of ourselves, you still have to get through the gig. Showtime is from 8 to midnight, so you'll be playing 3 one-hour sets with 2 30-minute breaks thrown in. Sam says to arrive no later than 6 so that you can help load in, set up, and get sound checked. Since you're not just a fill-in, but a full-fledged member, you get to join in the fun of sharing a third of the workload, both performing and the heavy lifting. They run the soundboard themselves from the stage instead of hiring a sound tech. Sam says doing it this way is a double-edged sword though. On one hand, you save money by not paying an extra person, but on the other hand, you're never quite sure how the band sounds since you're not out in front of the main speakers while you're performing. Sam said he's willing to risk the occasional bad mix for that extra scratch, as he calls it. You got all your equipment packed up and ready last night, so all you have to do today is load your gear into the back of your car and you're ready to go. But to your horror, Google Maps now says that your drive time is 91 minutes. Last night it said 62, but you forgot to factor in rush hour traffic, and since it's Friday, it's probably pretty bad. You think, damn, I'm gonna be late for my very first show. Not a good look. You hope you'll get more slack than flack from the guys since you're new to it all, and you basically bailed them out of a jam by filling the position. You text them the news and start your trip to the venue. The band played this bar years ago, and Sam says that it has a decent stage, and that by the end of the night they had people dancing all the way beyond last call. You imagine the scene in your mind, with a big crowd having a great time, stage lights flashing and the band rocking. And you actually get a little bit of an adrenaline rush now to go along with your nerves. You're already going to be late, so you're extra bummed to look down and see that your gas gauge is nearly on empty. You pull into the nearest gas station, which is actually a pump and munch up the road, and yes, that is a real place, and toss in a quick 20. You don't want to waste an extra second filling up the entire tank. You think that should be enough to get you there and back at least. Afterwards, you continue making your way down Interstate 35 under a now dim and threatening sky. Thank God it's an indoor show, since a light mist is now beginning to coat your windshield. You don't really mind the long trip though, since it allows you to play the songs from your set list on your car stereo. It's kind of a passive way to review the tunes one last time as you drive. It's 6:35 when you finally pull into Jimmy's Chicken Shack and Bar in Mooseheart, Iowa. Guess it's a legendary fried chicken restaurant by day and hot rockin' bar by night. You drive around back to the load-in area and see Sam and Rusty's vehicles backed in next to the door. You think it's kind of funny that Sam's car is actually quite rusty, while Rusty's truck is spotless and new. You feel bad for being late, so you jump out of your car and you immediately go to help them out. But they already did most of the heavy lifting, bringing in all the speakers, the amps, the outboard rack gear, and the lights. So you grab the last heavy object out of the trailer, which is the soundboard, and carry it in, all the while apologizing for your tardiness. Sam tells you not to sweat it, but Rusty, who's sporting a black cowboy hat, seems a bit peeved. This is the first time you've ever seen Russ wear anything on his head. You guess it's just his stage wear and hope they don't make you wear one, since Sam is also known for tossing on a hat every now and again. As you walk into the club, you realize what you imagined in your mind was way off. I mean, isn't it always? The bar area is straight out of some 1970s film starring Burt Reynolds. Dark brown wood paneling everywhere, mirrors on the far wall with that gold vine pattern that used to be so popular, and even a Schlitz light fixture over the pool table. It's pretty dark, dank, and smells like stale beer has been infused into the carpeting, along with some cheap perfume, fried chicken grease, and maybe a splash of vomit. The restaurant is still hopping after the dinner rush, but the only people on the bar side seem like regulars. There's 2 people talking to the bartender and the other 2 are playing darts. The stage is almost laughable, as you realize that Sam's definition of a decent stage differs quite a bit from what you had imagined. As you step up onto it, you hear a disturbing creak, and several other creaks as you walk across to the far side where you're to set up your gear. Sam yells out,
"Sure beats an office job, huh?"
as he hangs up their homemade Southwind Trio banner. You muster up a nervous laugh and then go back out to get the gear from your car. The growing sound of thunder makes you so relieved that you guys were able to load everything in before it really started coming down out there. Rusty seems to have the most work to do since he has to set up all his drums and then mic up everyone else's gear and feed it through the PA system. He's the band's default sound tech, in quotes. Sam's duties are to set up the lights, which you're disappointed to find out were nothing fancy, just 4 traditional light cans on a single T-bar fixture, run by Sam himself with a foot switch. You plug your Fender amplifier into the wall, toss your Tobacco Burst Roadhouse Stratocaster guitar on, and strike a G chord, half expecting the power to blow in this rickety place. But it holds steady. Rusty says,
"Hey man, keep playing. I'm gonna make sure you're coming through the system."
You kind of freeze up, but eventually you knock out the riff from Cat Scratch Fever, which was the first thing that came to your mind.
"That'll do,"
Rusty says, almost a little too quick.
"Now your vocals."
You once again freeze, not really sure what to say. Russ actually barks at you this time and says,
"Just say check 1, 2 or something, jeez."
You think, yikes, I've never seen him so grouchy. He's usually so chill at rehearsal. But then it dawns on you that at practice he's always a few beers deep before you even get there, and you don't see any bottles around him here at the gig. But that's sure to change, and now you actually welcome it. Soundcheck gets done, but you're worried because your stage monitor keeps cutting in and out, and that monitor is the only way you could hear the vocals. You rely on Sam for certain cues, and since you're singing backup, you need to hear his voice in order to harmonize along. Rusty just comes up and kicks the monitor and says,
"The Fonzie method. You'd be surprised how well it works with this old gear."
Your faith in the Fonzie method is not as strong, but hey, this isn't Rusty's first rodeo, so you guess he should know. You flick your amp off and set your guitar down on its stand before walking off the stage until showtime. Sam leaves the stage lights on, which makes the bar area look way less crypt-like, and he plays some classic rock over the speakers, hoping to entice some of the restaurant folk to come on over. He starts with Bob Seger's Turn the Page, which actually fits nicely with the background sound of thunder outside. Well, it works, kinda. 10 or so people eventually trickle over and take a seat in the concert area, which has a tiny 6 by 8 foot wooden dance floor in front of the stage. I mean, at that size, why do they even bother? Rusty hops down and asks you guys if you want anything from the bar, and Sam's like,
"Yeah, I'll have the usual."
You hesitate though, because you're not a big drinker and you want to be extra sharp for your first performance, so you just tell him that you're good for now. Rusty was grouchy, but now he looks like a little kid on Christmas as he rubs his hands together and heads over to the bar. Sam whispers to you,
"I hope he keeps it together tonight."
which gives you pause. 3 or 4 songs go by and Rusty is already on his second drink. He checks his watch and runs off again, but soon returns with 3 shots of some thick black-looking stuff in 3 short glasses. They settle not like water, but like cough syrup as he sets them on the table. He hands out the drinks, holds his up, and says,
"Cheers, gentlemen.
then he looks right at you and says,
Here's to your cherry poppin' debut gig."
You could tell Sam and Rusty have done this many times because they both count to 3, shoot back the dark liquid, exhale in unison, and then they both basically stare at you expectantly. You give in to the pressure and just go for broke, downing every drop in a flash. I mean, you kind of want to prove that you can hang with the boys. But you feel your nose hairs singe as you breathe out the fumes of the high-test concoction. It tastes like black licorice, which you despise. And they can tell that you're caught off guard and break out laughing. But you try to stay composed as it slowly burns down your chest. Rusty says,
"Jägermeister's our official drink. We kick off every show with a round."
You could feel the shot beginning to already take effect. Everything just seems kind of silly now, and you find yourself laughing at Sam and Rusty's immature banter. They remind you a little bit of Beavis and Butthead right now. You're also noticing that your anxious anticipation has faded into the background, and a sense of confidence has filled the void. Liquid courage is what they call it. Suddenly, an older, barrel-chested woman appears out of nowhere, wearing a wrinkled, grease-stained yellow shirt with a Playboy bunny symbol covering most of the front. She seems like the kind of lady that chain smokes and litters countless baskets with losing pull tabs. You could also tell she's not wearing a bra, just a side note. She looks kind of like a Beatrice or a Madge, and she has this shrill voice that could be heard from blocks away. She yells,
"Hey, when are you guys playing?"
Sam looks at his watch and with a big smile announces,
"Well, that'll be right about now, madam."
in his terribly fake British accent that he uses at random times. She lets out a jolting
Giddy up!
and high-fives herself and spins around as the guys stand up and head towards the stage. Before you can even get there, Sam cuts the background music, and now you feel a little bit awkward walking up the stairs and creaking across the stage in sudden silence. Why can't you just keep it going until you've taken your place? This is all brand new to you, and you suddenly feel eyes on you. You feel like every move is being scrutinized. Sam has done his homework and has made up set lists for everyone, which he printed out himself and placed neatly at the base of your mic stand. This gig is really showing you how much behind the scenes work these guys really do to make these things happen. Well, this is it. The moment you've waited for your whole life. Not as epic as you imagine though, but is it ever? It kind of feels like band practice actually, but now just with a few drunks watching. Sam's voice fills the room as he announces the band in his semi-southern other fake accent.
Howdy, folks. We're the Southwind Trio, and we're here till midnight. So put your dancing shoes on and feel free to sing along.
You wonder if that's how he starts every show. It's kind of cheesy, but I guess it could be worse. At least it rhymes. The first song on the list is Cocaine, the Clapton version. Rusty counts it off.
1, 2, 3, 4.
And you're off to the races. Cocaine's a great opening song because it's chill but not boring, recognizable to most people, and not highly technical to play. You mostly just hear your amp and the drums since they're so close to you, but as far as Sam's bass amp, it might as well be off because you can't hear a lick of it. You hope the audience can hear and feel it though out in front where the big speakers are. Sam hits a button on the foot switch which makes the single row of stage lights flash in a more exciting way. Look out, Kiss! You get to the first verse and suddenly Sam's vocals begin cutting in and out of your stage monitor. You tense up hoping it just magically fixes itself, but it ends up going out completely. The Fonzie method has failed you. You desperately look back at Rusty, the sound tech, but he just shrugs his shoulders and gives you a
What can I do about it?
look. You do a double take because you see him holding an unlit cigarette between his lips as he plays drums. Another piece of stageware, you figure. Weird, you're learning a lot about Rusty tonight. You begin to panic and hope Sam sticks to the script instead of improvising the vocal parts like he sometimes does at rehearsal. You actually resort to having to watch his mouth as he sings, making you look like some stressed out lip reader. Probably not a very pro look to the audience. Madge is now in the center of the tiny dance floor and is beckoning others to join her, but no one seems to quite have the nerve. Here comes your first solo. Your guitar never sounded so dry as you kick into the opening lick. You look up only to see that Sam is still singing for some reason. He had jumped right to the next verse and is now giving you the evil eye for stepping on his vocals. Ah, screw it! You give the monitor a swift kick, mostly out of frustration now, and pow, it's back on. Henry Winkler to the rescue again. For all you youngsters, that's the actor who played Fonzie. You're relieved to have dodged a bullet and look back at Rusty, who's just smiling back there. He's in his own buzzed out reality. The song finally comes to an end and is met with a smattering of applause. A few more songs go by and you finally start getting comfortable. You know you still lack stage presence by standing like a statue, but you're not confident enough to start jumping around like Eddie Van Halen, at least not till maybe your third gig or something. A male voice yells out from the audience.
Y'all know any Haggard?
Sam, being the smooth operating music vet, doesn't miss a beat as he replies,
You mean Merle Haggard? You know, some people say I look like Merle Haggard. Well, the Haggard part.
Rusty immediately follows with a comedic snare rim shot and a few people laugh, but it takes Madge a few seconds before she bellows out with an ear-shattering cackle, followed by a short fit of smoker's cough. Then Sam brilliantly says,
It is entirely possible, sir. Just stick around and we'll try to get to it.
He's back to his fake British accent now. This is another veteran move since he knows as well as you do that you guys don't play any Haggard songs. Sam and Russ might know a few, but as a band you've never played any. However, saying this will at least keep the Merle fan around for a while. A disturbingly loud clap of thunder sounds from outside and the whole place shakes a little. You once again hope the power doesn't go out since you'd basically just started the first of 3 sets. The alcohol has left you with a bad case of dry mouth and you realize you left your bottle of water in your car. Not good since you have to sing all the backing parts tonight. Rusty must be running dry too because he asks you to order a pitcher of beer for the band. You go up to the microphone, clear your throat, and nervously ask, waitress, can we get some beer up here? Rusty whisper shouts at you,
A pitcher. Oh, and get another round of Yags.
So you're like, a pitcher of beer please and 3 Yags? The dirty blonde waitress responds with,
Sure, honey.
and heads towards the bar, smacking her gum the whole time. You're okay singing into a mic, but have never ordered drinks through one, and in front of an audience on top of that. Now that the Chicken Shack side is closed for the night, the crowd almost doubles in size, which gives the band a bit of a bump in enthusiasm. It's then that for the first time tonight, you truly take in the moment. Here you are on stage, watching the growing crowd singing and dancing along with every song now, and you think, this is why so many people love doing this. But your moment of gratitude is derailed when a figure enters your peripheral vision. Madge is back, and she's slithering her way up to the stage with a dangerous look on her face. The band is playing Bad Company by Bad Company off the album called Bad Company, and it must have really moved her, because she's now locked eyes on Rusty and begins lifting one side of her Playboy shirt up high enough for us to see one of her Tata twins. Hey now, that's just what Sam calls them. Her thin lips curl up in a sort of smile snarl and reveal uneven yellowed teeth traced with brown tobacco stains. You can't help but look, and you think to yourself, what's under that shirt is not at all matching what you normally picture when you see that iconic bunny symbol. Curiosity forces you to peek back to see Rusty's reaction, and he's back there wincing like he just bit into a lemon and is now drumming with his eyes closed. You're dying to laugh but don't want to hurt Madge's feelings, although she probably wouldn't even notice. Now right before the last song, which is Life in the Fast Lane, the waitress, named Janny by the way, you guess it's just like a mix between Jan and Jenny but with an I, sets a big round tray near Sam with a full pitcher, 3 plastic cups, and 3 more shots of the Black Death. You'd rather have water right now but are so desperate and decide that anything wet will do in this moment. Now you figure Sam would have the band play the final song of the set and then indulge in the boozy treats, but nope, that wouldn't be very Sam of him. He makes a whole production out of it too, handing each of you a shot, and then has the whole crowd raise their drinks as he makes the strangest toast you ever heard. He just says,
Just remember, if your feet smell and your nose runs, you're upside down.
And then downs the shot. This time Rusty does the drum hit with just one hand since his other is occupied. This second round of drinks really hits you hard, putting you in almost an autopilot mode while you perform the song. It's more like your hands are playing and you're just watching them work their magic. And it seems like they're holding their own, but you really can't be sure since your brain is now full of the numb fuzzies. Poor Madge has finally given up the striptease and disappears behind the crowd that now fills the front of the stage. The band plays the final chord of the song and you take in the surprisingly loud cheer before putting your guitar on the stand in sweet relief. You proudly think, my very first set. You go to walk off the stage but feel something catch on your shoe as you step away, followed by a crashing sound, a familiar crashing sound. You trip down your cable and your guitar has fallen face first onto the stage. Sam yells,
Guitar down,
while Rusty just busts out laughing, sending his unlit cigarette also crashing to the floor. A hot wave of concern and embarrassment fills you as you pick up your poor Strat to inspect the damage. Everything seems okay, but the fall has caused the high E string to snap. Must have somehow gotten snagged on the stand as it fell. You just thank your lucky stars that you just happened to bring a backup set of strings, but they're not in your accessory bag right now. They're actually in the backseat of your car, buried under a week's worth of pop cans and fast food wrappers. So you grab your keys and run out the back door to dig out the pack of 9-gauge strings and grab that bottle of water. The rain is pelting you from above, and by the time you make it back, you know you're gonna have to play the rest of the show half damp. Great. One good thing is that this unrelenting storm will keep most of the audience from leaving anytime soon, so there's that. Sam laughs as you return and gives you that I told you so look. He warned you to bring a backup guitar, but your old Kramer, which was your very first guitar, is so decrepit you're too embarrassed to bring it, but now you wish you had. You spend most of the break trying to get the string on, but your swirling head isn't making things any easier. Plus the ball end of the broken string got caught in the bridge, and it takes Sam getting you a pair of needle-nose pliers to finally free it. You finally finish the job and look to relax for the few precious minutes you have left in the break. Sam had graciously left you a full cup of beer on the tray, so you grab that as you finally exit the stage. But the Merle Haggard fan sees you and stops you in your path.
So, which Merle song you guys playing? Silver Wings, Big City, Mama Tried, Working Man Blues, The Fight Inside of Me?
Boy, this guy knows his stuff. Yeah, that one, you say, just trying to stop his ranting. Besides, you have a pretty urgent appointment with the urinal right about now. The man turns to his friends and yells,
They're gonna play Fight Inside.
You should be mortified, but by now you're in too much pain to care. You make a beeline to the bathroom and are so relieved to relieve yourself. You return back to the band table to give Rusty and Sam the bad news. You say, I told the guy we'd play some song called Fight Inside of Me by Merle. Instead of getting upset though, Sam actually perks up. He says,
I played that one before in my old band, and I still know it.
The man is a human jukebox, I tell you. Rusty just gives you a thumbs up and continues to look straight ahead, and you begin to wonder if he's okay. You reply, "Great, but I've never heard it. In fact, I don't think I've ever heard a Merle Haggard song. The most country I get is 2 pina coladas and Friends in Low Places, only because we play them." Sam says with all the confidence in the world,
Don't worry, it's easy. I'll just signal ya.
you really wish you weren't in the middle of nowhere so you could just look up the chords online. But no reception bars on your phone, so no such luck. Then more good news from Sam.
The song's in E, but it starts with this signature guitar riff over B, but just do whatever.
You think, do whatever? You take a huge swig of beer and just sigh. You're the type of musician who likes to rehearse a song to death until it's perfect, and now they want you to just wing something, live. Sam checks his watch and heads back to the stage. You look over at Rusty and he's actually beginning to resemble a zombie. You say, "Hey Russ, time to play." He jumps up like he just woke him out of a sound sleep and looks around. His eyes have a shark-like quality to them now, lifeless and cold. Well, he leaves behind his empty beer cup and steps his way towards his drum kit. You realize the drinks have caught up to you as well as you try heading back to your post. Instead of walking, it feels more like you're floating across the floor. You can't really feel your feet, and it's something you've never experienced before. Sam's talking to waitress Janny on the side of the stage, and before you know it, the background music fades out and you're starting the next set. Sam announces,
Well, folks, we had a request.
You think, what? We're gonna start the damn set with it? Normally your blood would freeze right now, but the alcohol has replaced it, so you just shake your head and laugh to yourself. This should be interesting. Sam continues,
Here's a little fight inside of me.
and you hear the Merle fan in the crowd howl in excitement. Rusty slurs out a quick 4 count,
1, 2, 3, 4.
and then hits a kick and a crash as Sam holds out a B note on the bass. You just freeze, and the band just stares at you, along with the crowd. Which circle of hell is this, you wonder?
Just riff, man.
Says Sam, acting like none of this is a big deal. A gigging veteran attitude for sure. Not knowing what to do, you desperately play some bastardized lick from Johnny Be Good. Sam looks a little confused, but starts singing the verse for the Haggard tune while Rusty follows with a fast shuffle beat. You strum an open E chord and try desperately to just follow along. Sam tries to guide you, but he's too busy singing and thumping the bass. But eventually his fretting hand pops up and he flashes you all 4 fingers and a thumb. He's done this at rehearsal before, and it's his old school way of signaling a change to the 5 chord. You're glad you know a bit of theory, which helps you know that that means to go back to the B chord. But then he unexpectedly goes right back to the E, and you eventually follow, but not before causing a bit of cacophony. You still can't hear his bass amp. You eventually take a solo, and it goes pretty well since you know how to vamp over most country solo sections, but to your surprise, the song freaking modulates. Sam jumps to a C note out of nowhere, only to settle on F as the new key. And this really grinds your gears because Sam knows you don't know the damn song. The least he could do is just stay in one key the whole time. I mean, the song wouldn't suffer nearly as much as you are right now. You're relieved as the song ends with 4 F chord stabs, and Sam signals this by lifting the head of his bass up and down with every hit. The crowd's response is lukewarm, and you can't bear to even look up, afraid to see the expression on the Merle fan's face. But thankfully the tension's interrupted as Janny comes up with 3 mystery cocktails on a tray. Not black this time, but more of a light green color, kinda like Jell-O pistachio pudding. Rusty becomes an excited kid again and yells out,
Scooby Snacks!
as Janny takes it upon herself this time to step up on the stage to hand them out to everybody. I mean, after a train wreck like that, you feel the urge to get train wrecked yourself. The guys shoot their Scooby Snacks right down, and even though you want to as well, you instead take just a sip so you can make it last. It's kind of cool and minty, a nice contrast to the Jägermeister. The good thing about stage wrecks is it usually makes the songs you're decent at seem that much better. And you have to admit, for the shape you guys are in, you do sound pretty good for the rest of the set. Or maybe it just seems that way through these, what Sam calls beer muffs. The band finishes the last song and slips off the stage for the last break. You go to take a seat at the band table, but waiting for you this time is a basket of chicken strips courtesy of the owner. You find out that it's actually part of the deal. 1 free basket per member. Sam excitedly bites into one and says,
Eat up, boys. This is our bonus.
You try a bite and realize why this place is so legendary. I mean, it's better than Chick-fil-A and KFC combined. It almost melts in your mouth, and when you add their signature slightly spicy honey mustard sauce, it becomes downright decadent. I mean, a guy could get addicted to these things real fast. You joke and say that instead of Jimmy's Chicken Shack, they should call it Jimmy's Chicken Crack. And actually, Rusty laughs a little bit at your joke. You're also glad to be soaking up some of the booze in your stomach. I mean, you gotta sober up for the long drive home. You notice Rusty hasn't even touched his food though. There's a group of gals sitting one booth over, and you notice that one of them keeps looking over at you. And she's actually really pretty. I mean, it could just be these beer, yag, Scooby snack goggles, but you highly doubt it. Sam nudges you and says,
She's your type.
Rusty chimes in with,
Oh, you mean has 2 legs and a heartbeat?
I mean, he might be a little sloshed, but he still has his quick cutting wit. You all have a good laugh, and almost like it was scripted, the cute pale blonde girl starts approaching your table, holding a dirty martini in one hand. She looks kind of like Liz Phair, and you can't believe she's actually coming over to you. And whatever she's wearing has a familiar scent. It's like a mix of warm vanilla and a touch of exotic patchouli. It brings you back to a great time in your life. It was this goth phase that you went through in junior high. Now, not exactly being Casanova in these situations, you suddenly feel like a schoolboy and aren't really sure what to say. She begins to ask,
Hey, do you guys play?
Sam jumps in with,
Yes, whatever you want us to play, we play it.
You're glad Sam breaks the ice for the guys, but you're also a little annoyed, because according to Rusty, he's always the one who gets the girl. So you just jump in and ask, well, which song? She smiles a bright white smile at you, sets her martini down on the table, and sits right next to you. Her knee is now touching yours.
Can you guys play any 90s alternative?
She looks very 90s alternative, so you find this request both fitting and endearing. Your inner stud, which you didn't even know you had, comes up with a great idea, and you confidently say, well, let's go take a look at the set list. Rusty smiles and looks at you as if to say,
You sly dog, you.
as he finally takes a small bite of chicken. He's been married a long time and has admitted to feeling a tinge of jealousy whenever he sees his single friends getting attention from the opposite sex. You really start connecting with this girl, whose name just happens to be Elizabeth. You bust out laughing when she tells you, and you explain that it's because you think she looks like Liz Phair. She smiles and says she gets that a lot, and that's why she goes with Elizabeth instead of Liz. You say, that's fair, and wait for a laugh. But you think it either went over her head, or it was just so lame she didn't want to acknowledge your dad joke. Well, time flies by, and next thing you know, it's time to play the final set. So you tell Elizabeth that you'll see her after the show. She smiles, brushes her bangs to the side, nods, and walks off with the martini clinking in her hand. Sam and Rusty both have shit-eating grins as they come up to you, but you try to downplay what just happened, even though you're now buzzing with this giddy excitement. Rusty offers you a bottle of Summit beer, but you tell him you're just gonna stick with water. He just shrugs and says,
You're lost, buddy.
as he walks to his drums holding a cold bottle in each hand. Now, Sam says it could be tough to win the audience back this late in the night, especially after you just took a 30-minute break. But because you start the set off with LaGrange from ZZ Top, it does the job and the crowd seems to be amped back up. You can't help notice, though, that Rusty's groove is getting a little too loose for your liking. And in a song like LaGrange, it can be really apparent if the drums are lacking. You peek back to see what's going on and see that he's trying to play the song one-handed as he's sipping his Summit with the other. You can't help but look over to Elizabeth's table where she's still sitting with a group of friends. But now you notice a couple fratty-looking guys buzzing around them like flies. One of them's pretty good-looking too, like AC Slater from Saved by the Bell. This causes you to totally botch the first solo. Sam gives you a concerned side-eye. I mean, Rusty is already falling off the rails, and I think Sam is worried you're going to as well. You also realize that there's still chicken grease on your fingers, which isn't helping. You look up a few moments later and notice that Slater is now talking to Elizabeth, and she's laughing. A little too much and a little too hard. It's crazy how possessive you could be over someone you just met. Well, only 3 songs to go before the end of the show, and now there's a noticeable lull in the bar. The storm had passed, and about half the patrons have already headed out the doors. You wonder if it also has anything to do with Rusty's drumming, which keeps getting more and more janky with every sip. Elizabeth's booth is suddenly vacant. Only a mess of empty glasses are left on the table. You scan around and see the back of her as she's walking out the door with her group of friends, and the Fly Guys following close behind. You feel like the universe is playing a cruel joke on you, since the band is currently playing Love Her Madly by The Doors. Luckily, the lyric, Don't You Love Her as she's walking out the door, doesn't hit at this exact moment, or you'd probably just fall over dead. She doesn't even look back to say goodbye, which sends another crushing blow. It's okay, you're still on stage playing guitar at your first show. I mean, don't get greedy now. And don't forget that you're getting paid to do this. The band ends with an abridged version of Freebird, almost as a joke, since someone in the crowd inevitably yells out Freebird at the end of most shows. You've even yelled it once yourself. This song allows you to solo to your heart's content, which could fill up some set time if need be, but you're not really feeling it right now, so you keep it short. The band hits the final chord, Sam hits the blackout button on the foot switch, and that's that. All you hear are a few claps, the sound of bottles and glasses being dragged off the main bar, and the ringing from the 3-hour ear beating you just endured. Sam comes over to congratulate you on playing your first gig, while Rusty bolts out the back door cupping his mouth. Sam says,
I've never seen him drink this much. He must be puking up his boots out there.
You decide to just start tearing down your gear, keeping one ear open for the sound of Rusty's retching. Now that the adrenaline is leaving your body, you could feel this raw, burning sensation on your fingertips. You realize that 3 hours is a long time to play guitar. Russ startles you as he crashes back into the doorway and says,
False alarm, guys.
His eyes now 2 huge, glossy, bloodshot pools. And his cowboy hat's missing for some reason. His eyes focus in on you and he asks,
Where's your girly friend? Or did you already blow it?
Sam luckily bails you out by asking Russ to help him fold the handmade backdrop. You continue to wrap your cables, and the bartender looks up while wiping down the bar and says,
Hey man, I know you're new to this band and you guys sounded great, but your guitar was barely audible. Just have him crank you up next time.
You just want to collapse right there on the stage. I mean, all that effort was basically in vain. You realize that not having a sound guy really is a double-edged sword. You let out another deep sigh, shake your head, and just continue packing. It takes the band close to an hour to tear down and load out, and you thought you'd be on cloud 9 after a show like that, but you can't help but feel a little bit of heaviness inside. Even though it was fun, it really wasn't what you imagined it would be. Sam meets up with the bartender and you see him hand Sam some cash. When he comes over to pay you, you use the old line, "You mean I get paid to do this?" He smirks and says,
Well, sadly not a whole lot tonight.
You're confused and say, "But you said we'd each get $130. Sam's like,
Yeah, we made $400, but drank close to 100 of it away.
It dawns on you that Rusty wasn't ordering drinks out of kindness or his own pocket. It was coming out of the band fund, if you will. You think of the $20 you also tossed in your gas tank and start to do the math. So you thought you were getting 130, but instead it's really around 80. And you were at the venue for 6 hours, and driving to the show and back is going to be about 2. So divide 80 by 8 hours, and you get a whopping $10 an hour. Sam senses your dismay and says,
Don't worry, man. Next week we play the rodeo gig and we'll make about $500. And I think the casino's gonna give us another chance, too.
You decide that it's just how it goes being in a lower level 3-piece cover band, and that you should just be happy making anything on your first few gigs. Now that being said, you tell yourself to remember to talk to Sam about the possibility of keeping the drink tab separate from the band fund from now on. The way it is now is what you would call unsustainable. Rusty has crashed in the back of his Dodge truck, which Sam admits is a pretty common thing at gigs. He goes over and retrieves Rusty's cowboy hat from the side of the bar and tosses it in the truck. Sam's actually a really good dude. And as he pulls away in his rust bucket of a car, he tells you once again that you did a great job and that he can't wait for the rodeo gig. You tell him to drive safe and that you'll talk to him later this week. All the post-gig duties have sobered you up, and you start your long trek home, but you still have a little bit of a lump in your throat. On one hand, you're happy you played your first gig and that it went pretty well. But you've crashed back down to earth with believing that it was going to be some sort of viable source of income anytime soon. You joke to yourself, I might have to start that OnlyFans page after all. As you pull away, you hear the reverb strings rattling from your amp in the back seat, and you know you got to get used to that sound because you're going to be playing a lot of gigs in the future.